Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we're talking about the legions of hell, all those demons and demonic influences and all that stuff straight from the pit. And so we're going to talk about what we loved, what we hated, and just kind of have a hell of a good time. So in the meantime, before we get started, let's have our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Hildy.
Hi, my name's Hildy Silverman. I was the publisher of Space and Time magazine for about 12 years, and I'm a short story author. Also a huge Supernatural fan, which is why I'm here tonight.
Great. Kristin?
My name is Kristin Jackson. I'm a graphic designer and freelance artist. I work mostly in film. I've been a part of the Supernatural fandom since the first show on the 2005. And I've been working in the past with some of the behind the scenes people who put the show together. So this is a show that really has a lot of meaning for me in my life.
Very cool. Theresa?
Hi, I'm Theresa Glover. I'm the author of the Caitlin Kelly, the Monster Hunter series with Falstaff Books and an editor at Falstaff Books, and just a recent convert to Supernatural because of Gail. I blame it on her and she accepts it with love.
I do. Michelle?
Well, first off, I have unfortunately no relation to the former King of Hell. However, my name is Michelle Crowley. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a lecturer of communication at Northern Kentucky University, and I teach public speaking, communication courses, and my passion is currently in popular culture.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic fantasy, urban fantasy, and more. And as Morgan Bryce, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. I also run the Supernatural fandom track, the Supernatural fan group TFWNC on Facebook, and the fandom track here at Continual. And as Theresa said, I'm kind of obsessed a little bit with our favorite show. So we're going to talk about all things hell related. But I know Michelle has a story related to the King of Hell from your class.
Well, Mark Shepard, the man himself, did contact my Supernatural class that I had in the spring of 2020, and he sat down with us and kind of gave us really an insider's view on what it was like on set and just throughout his entire tenure on the show. And Mark is an absolute sweetheart. He'd probably deny that allegation, but he absolutely is.
And you said, I think that he was fascinated when he saw your name and found out that was really your name.
Yeah. He said that one of the reasons that he agreed to do this, because it wasn't like we went through Cameo or anything. This was actually pre-Cameo stuff. And it was just sent him a tweet on Twitter, and he was intrigued. And then he looked into it and he's like, your name's why I'm here.
There you go.
That's awesome.
The King of Hell himself.
The King of Hell himself showed up to Crowley's class.
So who wants to go first and talk about maybe who your very favorite demonic influence is on Supernatural?
Well, because it's an easy segue, I have to say that Crowley is definitely probably one of my top two favorites. Him and Rowena, they're just the best. Like, if I could have an entire show with just the two of them, I would be the happiest kid on the planet.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of theirs as well. I love them together, bantering as only a fond mother and son can. Also a big fan of, I'm going to say this so badly, I have trouble with this word for some reason, Asmodeus. I never know how to say that right, even when I hear it. But I really like him. I love the actor. He used to be on General Hospital. I'm a big soap opera person. And he played a Latin gangster on there, and then he became this demon on Supernatural. A very talented actor. And I really enjoyed him on Supernatural during his run.
Well, I like Crowley because he was just fascinating. He, you started out really not quite liking him as much, and he sort of evolved over time and became more of like a frenemy for the boys and for the show. And his sense of humor was always on point. Even in a dark scene, he could say, make a comment or a side note, and it just kind of it broke the tension. And I thought it's fascinating to me, the evolution of demons and the concept of hell on the show, because the first time they entered the picture was Phantom Traveler, wasn't it? And it was like they weren't really sure how to portray a demon at that point. The smoky thing was kind of still a little, they were working on it. And then it was what, Meg was next. And then, aside from the yellow-eyed demon, aside from him, it seemed like they became more coherent in what they wanted to do with demons in general as time went on.
Yeah, they developed more individual personalities. They were not one note, we're just here to do evil. They had their own motivations and such. Definitely quite an evolution over the course of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then especially when we started getting into hearing their human backstories. There's only a handful of demons that we got to find out that they had a human life and what their life was like there. And Crowley's one of them with his, he was, well, we all know why he sold his soul, but then you also have Ruby's backstory and the demon that tried to take over hell in season 13, 14, then when Sam gave him the smackdown and said no. We heard a little bit about his background, and it seemed like as we kept going, the villains became much more 3D, more so than just that ethereal kind of smoke going through the air system of the airplane. It was pretty cool to watch.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because in the anime series, which is not technically canon, but canon adjacent because it was officially produced, it's a mix of retelling some of the classic episodes and adding to them. They all have a little bit of an extra twist, and some of the episodes are completely original. And one of the original ones is Meg's backstory. And so I thought that was a nice addition to canon there, because she's really one of the ones we never really got the complete background on.
She had such a huge, impactful role on, well, Sam's life and then the show in general.
Yeah, and she's another one who you really hated at the beginning, and then she softened up, ended up having some good parts, ended up falling for Cass. Meg Stiel is out there as a thing because he learned it from the pizza man. And an angel and a demon. Where else could this happen? But, and then she ends up taking care of Cass when he takes on Sam's hell memories and sacrificing herself at one point with the Victor Hendrickson arc. So yeah, you really get some complex characters who aren't the one-dimensional sort of, I'm the evil bad guy.
Yeah, because Meg 1.0 was just, she was vicious. Mm-hmm. She was vicious and very impulsive and very focused on whatever her particular task was. She didn't seem to have like a long-term game plan necessarily. Whereas over time, she became more, you were saying dimensional, very, very much more dimensional. And I think this kind of calls to something I had said in another panel, where the more exposure to the Winchesters anybody seemed to have, the more they sort of had a redemption arc of their own. Even
which is a good thing, because the more exposure they had to the Winchesters, the more likely they were to die. So,
True.
Our boys have that effect on people.
One of my favorite parts about Crowley was when he started having those human emotions. I forget what episode it was, but he becomes almost human, and it was just one of the most touching parts of that character, to see him go from such a crotchety demon into this human character and then try to toughen back up again to not lose like cred even with the boys because he didn't want to be that soft and squishy type, but yet he really was. And like you said, it was because of his exposure to the boys and that humanization that they brought to so many people that kind of fell within their purview.
Yeah,
But-
he deserved to be loved.
Right.
But that was also almost his downfall, though, because really after, because what was it, Sacrifice, when Sam's turning him human with his blood, really after that, like you said, he never really regains his cred that he had before. I mean, he always had this kind of dark spot, well, light spot on his soul following that time. And you know, the other demons knew it, and, you know, other entities knew it too. And it's like the rise and fall of Crowley at the hand of the Winchesters, but it's secondhand almost.
But it's kind of cool how they bring down some of those big bads with love rather than violence. I mean, if you think about it, Rowena kind of even went that way because she started getting soft and squishy for Sam, and she just had almost like a mother's affection for him at the end, and ends up, you know, giving up her own self for the boys, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Can't resist the moose, you know.
That's right.
No.
The moose has that power. They'll all start killing themselves to save the moose.
Yep.
Well, and
There you go. There he is.
at one point she was going to kill Sam because it was fated that he was the only one who could kill her.
Mm.
And so, you know, what a long way they come to her working the magic that causes her own death for them.
But at least she gets rewarded. She gets to be the queen of hell, which is cool.
I was gonna say, wasn't it wonderful to see her emerge as the queen of hell?
Yes.
But apparently now they have tea parties and other things down there now, and everybody's very bored.
Receptions for the newly damned souls, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love those episodes. I would have liked to have seen even more of like how she was redecorating hell.
Well, it did look a lot spiffier on the occasions the boys visited after she was queen, you know, with the Gothic arches and the statues. It had definitely spiffed up over just the random, we're in the basement of a castle somewhere.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was intentional, like a callback to her, you know, when she was alive and growing up and everything. She would have been in those Gothic archy, you know, medieval castle-y sort of places. That'd be kind of her scene. So she might have redecorated to kind of fit her, you know, what she considered, you know, her home and what made her feel at home. Whereas Crowley was kind of more the dark and the business and you know, a little bit more on the business end of things, more like the, you know, how heaven was kind of very, you know, flat.
Corporate.
And corporate, yes.
Corporate, yeah. Well, as a Crossroads demon originally, you know, he was all about the contracts and the business. So it fit.
Well, and I love that he took over after Lucifer, and one of his big improvements was to eliminate more of the torture and just have people stand in line indefinitely.
That was good.
That's
accurate.
really cruel.
That's how you knew he was a real sadist.
There was a brutal sense of humor to that.
Yeah.
Too many people were enjoying the hot pokers, so let's do something no one enjoys.
Yes.
The line forever.
So how about the real big bad, Lucy himself?
Oh gosh, he's so great. That the actor who plays him, well, I know a few actors did, but the one who played him the longest, whose name, of course, I'm blanking on, but
Mark Pellegrino.
Thank you, Mark Pellegrino. What a fantastic performance from this guy. You enjoy him so much, and then he does something so evil and horrible, and you're like, oh right, he's Lucifer, he's not good, but you kind of root for him. You want him to kind of take that Crowley leap, which he of course never does, you know, especially with Jack. I always wanted, like, maybe just a little bit of the father-son bonding, and they would get close and then they yoink it away,
He
which I
did
guess
also make him a Wookiee.
he did. But yeah, he was great.
So I'm gonna sit on the other side of this argument here. So the actor's performance, Pellegrino's performance as Nick / Lucifer, spot on, great. The thing that I'm not a big fan of what they just did with the character in general is that when we first saw Lucifer, now granted he was in Sam at the time, but that first rendition of him, season 4, 5, 6, season 4, 5, he was really like, he played his cards real close to the chest. You didn't know what he was up to. You didn't know what he was thinking or what his end game was. But as he, you know, after the Vince Vincenti era, he was just like, I'm here, this is my plan, I'm gonna make this happen, I don't care who gets in my way, I'll just dust you. And it kind of took away some of the intrigue with the character, because it's like, you know, I grew up Roman Catholic, and so we always had the image of the serpent. So this mysterious, is he there, is he not there, kind of weaving his way into our lives and into the storyline. A lot of that mystery and evilness, sliminess went away after, you know, he was really exposed, I guess, after, you know, with the whole Jack storyline and everything.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely true. They definitely changed the trajectory of the character along the way. It became a little bit more, I don't want to say campy, but certainly not as what you're describing, which is, yes, I agree with you, that he was a much more, you know, the classic sort of crafty, you know, you will never see him coming, plotting, sort of serious Lucifer, to sort of a balls out evil, I'm gonna get you, Lucifer.
I think one of my
But I
favorite.
mean, I think part of.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of my favorite scenes is when he comes back and he doesn't. This is in I think season 13. He comes back. He doesn't have any power, and he doesn't know it yet, and he's going down the street threatening to disintegrate people, and nothing happens, and nothing happens, and just, he's so, what am I doing wrong? This is not the way it's supposed to work, and he played that so well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think that I like that kind of a change for him was just because he's one of those people who tells you exactly who he is, and so few people believed him. So that when he does it, he stands there and he's like, duh, that's what I said I was gonna do. And everybody's like, but that's not what you're supposed to do. I thought that was one of the most brilliant ways of playing that character, because I mean, we've seen it even, you know, popular culture in, you know, going on right in front of us lately. They tell you what they're going to do, so you have to believe them. And he was one of those characters that he said exactly what was going to happen and nobody believed him. I think that just makes him all the more evil.
And in the early years too, he had just that very quiet, understated menace. Very menacing. He had the little side sort of snarky comments, but then in the later seasons, he just went full snark, humorous snark. And it kind of, in a way, it almost like was in a similar role to Crowley with the snarky comments. That he could, you know, he could take a very dark scene and play it almost comedic with a sense of humor. But to me, that kind of was even more menacing, because that's like insane, you know, or you know, technically insane, where somebody would just be so totally divorced from the seriousness of what they're doing. They're having a blast, and you're like, you just killed 5 people and you hung up their, you know, guts on the window. Well, yeah, but it was, you know,
But
It
it's
needed
art.
decoration.
He,
And you're
he
like,
becomes more like the
Gorgeous,
Joker,
yeah.
like Heath Ledger's Joker
Mhm.
in that case.
yes,
Yes,
very much.
very much. Yeah.
I thought some of his best scenes also were in season 8 when he was in Sam's mind and you had him, you know, Sam, you had him driving Sam crazy and how inventive, you know, his good morning Vietnam and just, you know, how on earth do you explain this to your brother that this is going on in your head? Yeah.
That was my wake up call for my last 2 phones was Satan singing, "Good morning to you, good morning to you." Yep.
Yes. I think one of the things we saw with Pellegrino was you mentioned balls to the wall. He just put his whole self into that character. There was nothing held back and it came through.
Yeah, oh, definitely. He made it his. I mean, he's done other lots. He's been in so many things. And a few of them have been slightly similar roles, but he plays it to the hilt.
Yeah.
Like, that is his forte. And I gather that's why they kind of leaned into it over time. Like, he has this ability to be hilarious 1 second and horrific the next. You know, be menacing even when you like him. So I assume they like, well, that's gold. We're gonna play with that.
I just remember at the Supernatural Charlotte convention 2 years ago, Robin Rich got everybody in the audience to bring Pellegrino out on stage by having the entire audience chant "All Hail Satan." Now, at Embassy Suites in the Carolinas, this does not happen very often. We really got side eye from the hotel staff. 400 or 500 people all chanting "All Hail Satan," you know.
Yeah, I can see
Nice.
that would worry a few people.
We might have. So, you know, our 2 favorite boys have also been not only in hell, but Sam was supposed to be the boy king, and we did have his turn as Samifer. And then, you know, of course, there's Demon Dean and Mark of Cain. And so and Cain is a demon himself, but how about Sam and Dean on their hell tour?
I always liked when they had the chance to be other people possessed or taken over in some way or lost their souls or whatever happened that week, which happened a lot. Because they got,
Especially to Sam, who's been repossessed more often than a cheap used car.
poor Sam, but I felt like it gave them such a chance to play, you know, break out being the same character every week, and they always played it with such enthusiasm. You know, they really went for it. Like, okay, now I'm evil. I'm this evil. I'm that evil. I'm possessed or whatever. And I found them both very good at creating very believable versions of themselves or of someone else being them. Both of them were really good at inhabiting those other roles, even as themselves.
Like the buddy comedy with between Demon Dean and Crowley.
Oh my God, that was the best.
Yes.
We could have a
Demon Dean
spin-off.
is definitely my favorite because it was almost like you were watching the character of Dean and all those dark little tendencies that got hidden just came into full flower. So it wasn't even like he was a different person. It was just all the bad stuff just turned up, and it made it so much fun to watch.
Someone pointed out that when we got those flashes in season 15, when Chuck was trying to kind of drive Sam crazy with all the possible scenarios and he was seeing all the possible endings in the other realms, and we see him as Samifer again. And they were saying how great a job Jared did in slipping right back into that white suited Lucifer. It's been 10 years and he slipped right back into it perfectly, seamlessly. And that's hard to go back and do something that you did 10 years ago and not change it. And he did great. He was extremely scary.
Yeah, very scary. In ways, he became scarier with Lucifer in him than Lucifer himself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really felt that very strongly, Hildy. I felt more menace and threat from Sam as Lucifer than Pellegrino playing himself as Lucifer.
Well, and I think it goes back to Demon Dean had Dean's dark side, but Samifer had Sam's dark side. And they both had a dark side that to a large extent was contained by being with their brother, because neither of them did well alone.
Yeah.
I've been intrigued with some of the fan fiction that takes the curve that Kripke did not, which is that when Sam couldn't get Dean out of his deal, Sam embraced his role as the boy king and walked into hell and took it over to get him back. And I thought, that could have worked. Wouldn't have done much for the length of the show, but man, what a twist.
That would have been cool to see, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would have.
So what about the Knights of Hell? There was Cain and Dagon and Ramiel, Knight of Hell, who unfortunately rhymed. And you mentioned Asmodeus, Colonel Sanders.
Yes.
He was the one that I just really couldn't take seriously. Like, I didn't find him scary. I just kind of sat there and giggled because all I could see was Colonel Sanders.
With the beard.
So I didn't just take him seriously. It was just like, you're funny. Sit down.
What was the one with the one who killed all the men of letters? What was her name?
Oh, Abaddon.
Abaddon.
That was Abaddon. Abaddon, boy,
Yeah.
she was good.
Mhm.
She was
Mhm.
good. I liked her.
I would have loved to have seen more of Ramiel. He seemed like a neat guy. He just wanted to go fishing, and then they bothered him, and then he killed everybody. As
My
one does.
favorite was Lilith, because
Mhm.
I love the creepy little kid trope. So watching her just, decimate people as this innocent little girl was just wonderful.
Yeah,
And
that kid was
terrorize her
good.
parents.
Yes.
I wish they would have gotten a little bit more into the roles of the Princes of Hell and the Knights of Hell. And, just getting into who are these demons? Like what denotes a prince or a knight or a what are they, other than saying, oh well, this is another demon and it's different because this is different color eyes and it has just a slight bit more power than anybody else, but hey, guess what, demon blade kills them all. So
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, it's like who, and even like Lilith, it isn't a knight of hell, isn't a prince of hell. It's like who is, well,
Right.
obviously who is, we know the story of Lilith, but that's different than what the show's history of her as well. So yeah, I mean, I just, we have this collective term of demon, but there are so many different variations, and I just wish that they would have explained them a little bit more, just to give us more of those 3D villains that are so in vogue right now.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
interesting though, if you even do internet research on demonology and you look, of course, Supernatural pulled all this stuff from
Mhm.
real myth and legend and religious texts. And there are a gazillion different levels of demons in actual lore, as opposed to made up script lore, as there are with angels. And so I always give them props for having really done their homework.
Yeah, the princes of hell, the kings, there's multiple kings of hell. Besides Lucifer, there's all that. So they definitely dove in there. Within the show, though, I agree, there was and of course, they had limited time and, they had storylines to follow, but it was interesting. It would have been interesting to explore a little bit more about how did you rise in the ranks to become a king of hell, a knight of hell, a king of hell? What were your responsibilities? Did they differ that much? Did the knights have to defend hell in some way? Did the princes get special treatment? I don't know.
Sam
Yeah.
needs to have a podcast where he's just reading lore books out of the bunker. It's like, come on, let's dive a little bit deeper into your own made up lore. Come on.
Yeah, the Crossroad demons were the ones that seemed to be the most well fleshed out for us understanding what they were about, where their place was. They seem to have the, at least from my point of view, I understood what they were, serving in the story. And I didn't need, a whole lot of backstory to get what their deal was. But the other, those very fine divisions of knights and legions, and they kind of lost me there. I wish they had explained a little more why, why are you naming it a Knight of Hell, rather than demon number 2? So what made them special and gave you the reason to give them a distinction? So, I didn't feel like I could follow that part of the story very well.
I have to say that while I agree with Theresa that Asmodeus sometimes seemed very over the top and the whole white suit and everything. The thing that I really got out of his portrayal and that I thought made him very scary to me on a real life level is that his character was very clearly written to channel the Southern plantation slave owner. In the clothing, in his accent, in his phrasing, he was straight out of, antebellum South. And because that existed with equivalent evil, it always chilled me when he went there, because it was like, oh shit, this isn't actually completely made up. So it was so nice to actually see Jeffrey Parise on stage at I think it was SPNDC, playing his drum and talking about being real zen and how he meditates, and it was so cool. I was like, oh good, I can like you, because I really hated your character.
Yeah, he's like I said, he can play a lot of different roles, and he started out, he was on American Idol, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he got his start.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, he was obviously a bit younger, and then he wound up going into acting. So a multi-talented fellow.
Yes.
Cool.
Amadeus is another one of those evil characters, though, that he also was kind of like Lucifer. And when he's like, I'm going to do bad stuff, I'm telling you about it. Why are you surprised that I just did bad stuff? This is what I do. And he's also got that kind of revenge, his own personal revenge arc going too, because he was Lucifer's lackey. I mean, he was supposed to be the least of the princes, and he's said, you know what, I'm going to show you guys, and he captures an archangel and feeds off his grace for years, and so you really see the along with that Southern concept, the antebellum world of pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. He's Asmodeus is definitely a personification of a very distinctive mindset of United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, and going back to Abaddon, she was fascinating because she and Dagon definitely played fully equivalent with the rest of the boys. They were powerful and vicious and
No crap.
yeah.
And I thought it was a neat twist to make Abaddon female, because usually Abaddon, that demon, appears in a bunch of movies and stuff. People like that demon, and it was fun to see them do something different with the character. Embodying this gorgeous woman who then will rip your heart out laughing. That was cool. That was fun.
That's another thing about demon lore. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, just I want to say one of the demons that never kind of lost the menace for me was Alistair. He was I never felt any sympathy or fond feelings for that one. He kind of kept that hard character, the menace character, all the way through his episodes. So he didn't mellow at all being around the Winchesters.
No.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about him, but you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just watching one of the shows today with Alistair, and it was on TV.
Well, and oddly enough, he played the character with a lisp, and that somehow made it more terrifying. I don't know why. But instead of just being this full out badass, that lisp should have been a vulnerability, and it wasn't. And he was, I was cheering Sam the whole time when he killed him, and was kind of mad that everybody was mad at Sam for doing it, because what? The guy got what he deserved.
Yeah, he was not sympathetic at all.
Which so is oh, go ahead. We haven't said much about Azazel, the one who started it all.
The Mr. Yellow Eyes.
We've had so many more interesting demons than him, though.
I was gonna say he was one of those that was kind of a flat character. He never really evolved. He never really became more than the initial threat that he was, at least in my opinion. So to me, yeah, it was the revenge story of hunting him down and taking their due for what this guy had done. But I mean, he wasn't that complicated. He wasn't that interesting to me.
True. And he wanted Sam to lead an army, but then he just kind of gave up on it.
Yeah.
So he wasn't the most determined of the demons either.
Lacked follow through.
Yeah, I think they kind of lost track of what he was trying to accomplish with the kids, Sam and the other ones, and that I felt like they never really stuck the landing on that primary story, because it just kind of went in weird directions and fizzled out. Like, okay, you got this whole plan, you're infecting all these kids to mate with demon blood and profit. What are you doing? Where are we going with this?
Then they came back and tried to fix it, like when Dean would go back in time and try to prevent Mary from making the deal. It's like, if it wasn't going to be Sam, it could have been somebody else. Like come on. And then it's also was Azazel actually doing that for the benefit of Lucifer, or was he just doing it for funsies?
I thought he wanted to take over hell himself through the Boy King.
Yeah, that was like I said, it was kind of ill-formed as an idea, but yeah, I think that's what he was going for. He was trying to overthrow Lucifer ultimately.
Which is kind of funny, because that was the storyline that launched the series. That was the original quest, the original thing that started it all. And he served his purpose, but he didn't really have the same, like you said, they kind of lost the thread for what to do with him after a certain point.
And then Meg was loyal to Azazel, and Ruby was loyal to Lilith. Okay. I'm for some reason getting these characters mixed up in my brain, and I don't know why.
Yeah, there are times when Azazel has referred to Meg as his daughter, and we're never quite sure how literal that is. Is it like a vampire sire who has made him, or was she actually a human relative, or did he somehow, as a demon, level her up? They never really explained that relationship, but yeah, she was loyal to Azazel.
Yeah, that's another one of those things where they threaded it out, and it could have gone somewhere interesting, and then we didn't really get anything back afterwards.
Well, and then there's Ruby, who is arguably maybe the most important demon on the show. Certainly became that way to Jared.
Followed him into an entire another series too. That's dedication right there.
This is true.
Yeah.
He has joked that when his kids get around to asking where they came from, he'll tell them season 4.
That's awesome.
Anyone who saw that love scene doesn't doubt it. But what about Ruby?
Ruby I liked Ruby a lot. I felt again like there was kind of a missed opportunity in what could have been. There was no reason for her to start being a better person other than Sam, but he was enough to kind of start pulling her, like her love for him went beyond her initial plans, and it did start to really change her. and kind of gone. You know, I feel like there was some lost potential there, missed potential.
Well, especially when, you know, in that final scene opening the cage, she comes out with the fact that the whole thing had been a betrayal and it was never real from the beginning. So, you know, in a way that almost makes her worse than most of the rest of the demons. If she was really that cold and single-minded the entire way through it.
Yeah, and that's one of those where I feel like they changed it. That was not the initial plan for her character. That's why I say I feel like there was potential for, let's see a demon actually rise above based on falling for Sam or one of the boys. And it was heading that way. And then I think other influences, they were like, nope, we're not going to go there. We're not going to have that long-term relationship. And then there was the whole, yeah, I never meant any of it. I don't know.
But was she falling for Sam, or was she falling for Sam on demon blood?
That's the question.
Or
Yeah.
did she want to be the consort of the boy king? You know, because Meg actually got the demonic redemption arc.
Right.
So Meg fell for Cass and Meg softened up for the boys. And so she kind of got that arc, which Rachel Miner did a terrific job with.
Yeah, but I felt like Ruby was at one point perhaps the first one who was supposed to get that, and whatever reason that direction changed. But who knows? We'll never know, right?
Well, I think, you know, watching the show, especially with the benefit of hindsight, there's so many times you hit something that could have been an inflection point to go off in a whole different direction. And you wonder if they left it that, you know, did that to leave themselves some wiggle room, or did they intend that, or are we reading it into it? So yeah, there are a lot of, and there are just some plain old loose threads that never got wrapped back up again too.
Yeah.
So who have we left out?
Balthazar.
Well, Balthazar was an angel.
Was he? Oh, wait, I
Yeah.
might have the wrong name.
Bart was the one who wanted them to steal his bones back from the
That-
crazy collector guy.
Yeah, that's right. I'm mixing them up.
Yeah. But Bart
Mixing
was
up the names.
interesting too in his own way, you know, wanting to get his bones back and doing that deal. And Dean's take on the Indiana Jones dart tunnel, sending him down a wheeled office chair.
I think for me, the demons that bothered me the most, the ones that I just had the most visceral reaction to, were the 7 deadly sins.
Mm-hmm.
They were terrible. I am very glad that they are gone because I hated the ones that made the 200s drink bleach or drink a drain cleaner. Oh, I have not watched that episode ever since. I watched it that one time, and I can't watch it again because it bothered me that much. That was a hard scene.
That was disturbing. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the 7 deadly sins were bad. The horsemen didn't really count as demons though, right? They were kind of something other.
Yeah, I think they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Just kind of their own
kind of their
'Cause
own level of
like
thing.
the reapers and the horsemen were separate from the demons, I thought.
Yeah, I think
Because
you're
like
right.
the reapers were in the same, we're in a lower but similar type of class to the horsemen, because that's how they get promoted from like reaper to death, or at least that's what I remember.
So they were more like avatars, the horsemen.
Mhm.
Like death was an avatar. So
Yeah.
A little bit different. And I guess same idea with the Leviathans. They were not demons. They were their own class of yucky.
Why don't we just take the whole Leviathan storyline and get rid of it, and then develop some of this other stuff that we really want?
I'd be all right with that.
How can you not like Leviathans? They're all teeth.
I mean,
They
We
were
did get-
creepy. They were
we got
very
Jack
creepy
out of it.
monsters.
they were
got Jack
creepy,
out
but
of
I've
it,
read a
though,
lot of
so.
Stephen King, so it takes a lot to really get under my skin. So
And I always suspected that about turducken anyhow.
yeah.
So yeah. Well, believe it or not, folks, we have blown through our time. So let's go around again and tell everybody where you can be found online. If you have a new book or something coming up, be sure to tell us about it. And start with you, Michelle.
You can find me on Twitter at preheatingprof. And as of this moment, I do not have anything coming out. So I'm open for projects.
Cool. Theresa?
The easiest place to find my stuff is at falstaffbooks.com. My most recent book is a collection of 3 novellas. It's called Blood Moon Over Bourbon Street. It's the Caitlin Kelly Monster Hunter stories 1, 2, and 3. Working on 4, so we'll get there. But I'm also on Twitter and Facebook as Theresa Glover. You can just look up my name and I pop right up there.
How about you, Kristin?
Let's see, you can find me mostly on Twitter. So it'd be at Anicat, ANICAT. Nothing of any major significance that's coming up that I can think of, although I am hoping to be a part of a series that's going to be filming down in Tampa that's from the Blair Witch people. So
Oh, cool.
looking forward to that.
That's cool.
Hildy?
You can find me on Twitter, Hildy9595. My latest stories are out. One's from Haverhill Hill Press. It's called an anthology called The Dystopian States of America. And another one from Crazy 8 Press, which is an anthology called Badass Moms. I have stories in those. And I have a novella that will be coming out, although it's got to be a little while. It's got to be a cryptid novella. So from Systema Paradoxica, which you can follow on Twitter as well.
Cool. And our next thing, as Gailsy Martin and Larry Ann Martin, is Chicagoland, which is the 3rd in the Joe Mack adventures. That's the Roaring Twenties Monster Hunter. And this one takes place, as the title suggests, in Chicago, cleaning up the occult mess left behind by Al Capone when Elliot Ness calls in our monster hunters to deal with some of the rogue vamps and werewolves and other creatures that Capone manipulated and left run feral when he got arrested. So it's kind of fun. Well, folks, thank you so much for being with us tonight and talking about the Legions of Hell. And thank all of you for watching and listening. Stay tuned. We'll have a lot more Supernatural here on Continue, and we'll see you online.